Now, Democrats scored notable victories in the 2025 U.S. mayoral races across the United States. Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, won the spotlight race in New York City, becoming the city's first Muslim mayor and its youngest leader in generations. In New Jersey, Democrat Mikie Sherrill held onto her governorship. Virginia voters chose Democrat Abigail Spanberger as their new governor, while California voters approved Proposition 50, granting lawmakers the power to redraw congressional districts. Other key Democratic winners include Aftab Pureval in Cincinnati, Andre Dickens in Atlanta, Mary Sheffield in Detroit, who becomes the city's first female mayor, and Corey O'Connor in Pittsburgh. These results mark an important moment for Democrats during President Trump's second term. Now, Mukesh Kapila is a professor of global health and humanitarian affairs and has been following U.S. politics, especially New York. He joins me now for a discussion on the just concluded elections. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us. Before I bet you remember, I just told you I have very interesting questions for you. So, New York just elected their mayor, who ran on ending inequality, no rent on rent freezes, free transport, on childcare for all. It's a populist idealist pitch in a city driven by profit. I don't know if you agree. And yet people voted for that message, and loudly. So, Professor, what does that tell us about where public faith now rests? Are we seeing a moral rebellion against economic systems that people feel have failed them?
Well, New York might be a paradigm for capitalism, but quite frankly, many of the ordinary citizens of New York have been suffering from huge economic hardship. And so what they voted for is hope. And Mamdani used the politics of hope extremely effectively. Now, whether that reflects some kind of rebellion on the part of New Yorkers would be too much to say. I think they want to change, and they want more affordable lifestyles, and I think that's really what they voted for, because that's what Mamdani promised.
So Mamdani's campaign spoke directly to human needs, spoke about housing, dignity, fairness, the things humanitarian frameworks often emphasize. From your experience in development and governance, how can leaders bridge that gap between human-centered promises and the practical limits of public systems?
Well, firstly, your latter point, I think public systems are always overstretched in any country, in any place. And so I think promising that public systems and institutions will meet all human needs anywhere would be a rash promise. But what the authorities can do is to act fairly so that there is a balance between citizens' rights and duties and responsibilities, between institutions of capitalism and the institutions of consumption, so that there is fairness. So I think the only way to have a sustainable system which is fair, which meets basic human needs, is that if people are treated fairly, and the system as a whole, particularly institutions and regulations, work fairly for everyone. Now, in America, that fairness has suffered immensely recently. So the hope is that Mamdani will do something about that, at least as far as his writ runs in New York.
Well, let's hope that the cut funding that he's been threatened with by the president doesn't stop him from achieving that. But, Professor, do you think this is a one-off? Mamdani feels like a left-wing populism that's idealist. Do you see this as part of a wider global shift where frustration like inequality is creating new kinds of people or populists? Like, do you think this is a one-off?
I wish I could say it was signaling a wider shift, but to be honest, it's too early to say that. I think, firstly, New York is not representative of the wider United States. Secondly, I think the general politics of the US, even the democratic politics, is not into rebellion in any big sense or countering the orthodoxy. So whether or not this means a real shift in US politics towards better social policies, I think only time is going to tell. But if Mamdani doesn't deliver in New York, it'll be bad news for others who wish to make that shift.
So when a major Western city chooses a radical mayor like Mamdani on a platform of equity, it sends signals from beyond America. So how might this reshape conversations around governance and social justice in other democracies, like maybe here in Nigeria, for instance?
Well, a very good question. I think what happened in New York is certainly extremely important in terms of signaling to the whole world, where every country has its own share of inequalities and injustices. And therefore, I think many people will take heart from this victory, but they're holding their breath, because I think it's also important to note that the recent experience of popular politics has been always disappointing. So people come in, they make big speeches, they promise all sorts of things, and they fail to deliver, usually because of externalities, circumstances outside their own control. And then people are disappointed, and then, of course, the whole cycle starts again. So I think it's better to promise too little and deliver more than what you promise. And I think Mamdani's made the error that is overpromise, and I don't think he's going to deliver. But the rest of the world should actually cautiously hope that perhaps it is an example of what could be progressive politics elsewhere.
Now, it does seem like a rebellion of the people that they want to go in that direction. And I'm wondering if this is going to be replayed in other states and other countries as well, where people rebel against the government despite whatever gains most of or some of or certain sectors might have in the government.
Well, these things come in cycles, as you know. So we've had a conservative moment, a right-wing moment, which is not gone yet. It's prominent, and you only have to look at Europe, for example, where rightish governments are in power in most countries. But I think the leftish side is beginning to regain its mojo and is fighting back. We see that in the Netherlands, obviously in the UK, and possibly also in France. I think these are cycles that come and go, and this cycle will also turn.
Yeah, I like the bit about regaining their mojo. Professor Kapila, thank you very much for joining us on Tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.